were to take it a step further, though, you also create potential business relationships. Like, we understand that there's a scope that this is how things are supposed to go to get a business deal done. But, for example, there's a brand me and Angelo are about to release. It's called Golf Talk, right? And our opinion is that a lot of business deals get done on the golf course. You know what I mean? It doesn't get done, in the boardroom, so on and so forth. And in this moment, this is our golf course. You know what I mean? Where a lot of things are happening at once. Yeah, we're on your podcast, but so much more is happening than that because there's so many areas of opportunity. You know what I mean? And you start to just think about the preliminary conversation we had downstairs. It began there. Like, okay, what's taking place? Who are they? Vice versa. And then once you begin to hear us speak, it's like, oh, okay, well, where can we potentially go, if anywhere? You know what I mean? Because our relationships don't go anywhere. But that's a piece of our business model. Like it's damn near. What's the favorite? Voltron? Mm-hmm. Voltron. That's that type of
Captain
energy.
Planet.
Yeah, that's sort of how we come to a city. And it's like, if you know what you're doing, we 100% know what we're doing, right? And if you join in with us, your podcast could then become the platform that services the whole Fashion Week, and that has a different ring to it. So we know when we have our public relations team reach out, we know we got something to give you as well. You know what I mean? So it becomes a tug of war somewhat. Like, how can we move forward in here? And you're going to learn a lot of that through the conversation. You sort of see where we are mentally, how we think. You know what I mean? Just sort of knock off some of the cool vibes because we got this, bravado that we have, but it's very genuine. It's very organic. Everyone that we feel like we're here with a purpose, and we feel like everyone that we've met as it pertains to connecting through Fashion Week could benefit from Fashion Week in ways that they don't even know that they could benefit yet. And those that are open up to hear us, they will be pleasantly surprised. You know what I mean? So
I love that analogy to the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
I see podcasting as a form of social investing, where I'm allocating social capital to you or whoever the guest is, right? And so I give you social capital. In return, I get social equity. And that social equity isn't a direct monetization, but it comes in the form of a potential business partnership or referral to the podcast, or whenever somebody else comes to Vegas, you're like, hey, go on the Guest List podcast with Jake. There's so many things that could happen with social investing. That's what I like to call myself, as a podcaster host or podcasting host, which has just recently been unlocked by people like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss and the Breakfast Club, which now to me, podcasting seems like a life hack, because we are the new media companies that are forming, or the conglomerates, but it's in a more decentralized manner, and no one really watches things like CNN and Fox, because that they don't even believe the things that they're saying. At least the anchors are.
Yeah, facts.
Yeah. We've seen like the whiz behind the curtain in the Wizard of Oz when it comes to like the mass media or the mainstream media. And not that we don't know how to do. We know how to do the local news dance. We know how to do the established radio station dance. We manage my career. We manage my branding and marketing. We manage several of my colleagues that we really value and respect their work, like Chantal Maurice, a very dope actress, Jason Louder, looking at bringing some new names onto that team and representing some new talent as well that we're excited to announce.
Yeah, with Chantal, she just did Grey's Anatomy. Jason Louder was Cressy on Wu-Tang for Hulu's American Saga, and then 2 Bits on CW Black Lightning. Yeah. So we dumb it down a little bit, but what we personally do is very awesome. You know what I mean? The Fashion Week stuff is
respectfully.
The Fashion Week has so much to do with so many more people than us. That philanthropy element of 2 young men like ourselves coming from where we come from, that's what that Boutique Fashion Week represents. This is for the people that really were forgotten, and then we give you the process as if you were not. So if you are, let's say, for example, something as simple as not having a website, right? People think that it won't only stop you from getting into Boutique Fashion Week, but it also stop you from getting into Petit Umo, if you've ever heard of that.
Not familiar.
So it takes place overseas, Florence, Italy. It's almost like an international trade show. But something as simple as your website will prevent them from letting you in. So our demo, right, our creatives who may not be subject to that type of information or know-how would think that that's something small. But we've been developing for over the past, it's been basically 2 years, but 25 designers. And I mean, you could see the difference from when they started to where they are now. and then they're following. They don't even understand. A lot of them are following like H&M protocols, because me and Angelo worked a lot of back channels, whether it was for GQ or when I was working with Condé Nast, so on and so forth. So a lot of this information that they're getting and using is the actual way it's supposed to be done, how they market, why they market in this manner, why they partner, how it looks to even build an event from the ground up, so that they can then go and do it. But what we do as well is there's that Sundance Film Festival element that BVFW offers, where we know we're developing this talent. We're developing it to then partner with it, which now when we have Fashion Week, you can create your own world during Fashion Week because you were able to license the name and continue to move forward. So we're at the same time, you know, helping them move their careers forward. We're also expanding their business mind so that they see actually how it works. And in the meantime, building something legitimate at the exact same time. It's very scary because, you know, once you get a couple of brands that see it and it works for them, think, for example, Gorham Brothers, you know what I mean? I will say publicly recorded anywhere, we're responsible for, like, it's very chill. Like, it's very cool what's happening to their brand right now and how it looks. And I'm not talking about what we do creatively. I'm just talking about our swag and how we wear the product and how we sort of embrace it in our culture, because we understand the buying culture of the African-American community. And it's something that, you know, we're not offended when people, we know it's true, it's cool, so we step into that. You know what I mean? It's more so these things are our weapons versus
imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Exactly.
And we my bad, I didn't mean to cut you off, but now we get a wide range of talent too, even from designers to models. So it's dope to see that segue to each other through like osmosis, and they learn from each other, they learn the game. Like, we get designers that have done the New York Fashion Weeks, they've crushed it, or they've done the Big Three, or they've been invited to. We have Q here of Leo Loyal. She's either done or been invited to each of the Big Three Fashion Weeks. And we get a wide range of designers that vary from this is their first Fashion Week to they do this and they've been crushing this. And more importantly, they move thousands of dollars worth of products on a monthly or quarterly basis. You know what I mean? And the same with our models, the same with the other kind of creatives that we feature, like influencers to host the red carpets, musicians, artists to feature doing, you know, musical interludes. And that's our identity, though. We on some Robin Hood-ish. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all about the energy and the resources and the momentum that we're able to garner from the big corporations or more established companies we work with, and alley-ooping that momentum right down to a grassroots level to the creatives that are emerging on the come up. And everybody's clear of what's happening. We're not like technically robbing Gorham Brothers or Parmenter School or these established hotel brands we work with. They love it. But it's because diversity and inclusion is trending now. It's in now. It's been the bee's knees. You and I know that, and everybody in this room knows that. But now corporate America is waking up and smelling the coffee, and they're like, oh no, there's real value. There's not only real social capital in this, but it'll help keep our lights on. It'll help us establish ourselves as the dominant leader within this particular niche industry. I mean, that's the way Nike became Nike in the 80s, representing for the counterculture. That's how Adidas became Adidas. That's how Reebok became Reebok. That's how Blockbuster got Blockbuster.
Blockbuster.
Netflix came in and was like, oh, we smell
got run over.
We smell opportunity to do on some Robin Hood-ish.
Grassroots movements is kind of what's leading this when you say uprising or this evolution that's happening. As you spoke with like gated institutions that exist, we're now in this situation where those institutions who had the gates up, they're in this like emperor has no clothes situation. We see right through it, and we realize that they're just talking bullshit for decades. And now we realize, and I think kind of like the whole, if you followed the GameStop thing with Wall Street Bets, where they came in and just blew out all these hedge funds, we're like, oh, we actually have numbers, and that is actually much more powerful,
way more
than what one central entity can do. And from what you guys are speaking on, it sounds like the fashion industry is in the similar boat, where the fashion businesses who had such a command on the industry for decades are beginning to realize that, oh, these grassroots movements, these small brands, these creative agencies, they're all collaborating together in a way that has never existed before. And then you can kind of upend their power and flip them over. Like it's like they're a cow out in Kentucky. You're just tipping over the cows.
You disrupt it. And you see it happening in real time. Like, for those viewers that pay attention to fashion or style, but you're seeing the runways in the world of high fashion incorporate, oh no, we want more natural hair on our runways. We want more curvaceous models. We want differently abled models. You know, the Ashley Grahams are coming to the forefront now, and people that bring something totally different to the
Winnie
table, whether it be
Harlow's.
the Winnie Harlow's, whether it be a skin disorder or natural hair or just being differently abled. As if they invented that. As if they just woke up one day and they're like, you know what we need on our runways? More representation. As if we haven't been over here yelling it the entire time.
whole time.
And not for us to take credit. I mean, we as a community.
As a collective,
You know what I mean? As a people.
And when you see that kind of stuff happening, does it feel rewarding or does it feel almost like a cop-out from these institutions? Now they're trying to be so inclusive and everyone's kind of singing through the bullshit.
Yes.
If I
mean,
may-
it's
Oh, go ahead.
but to convey it to something even more drastic or significant as far as how it affects our daily lives. I mean, any W you get, there's still going to be a sense of things were left off the table. Like I think about the civil rights movement and all the different fingers that made up of the nonviolent movement, and that involves Martin Luther King and his committee of people, and the Harry Belafontes and the nationalists like the Black Panthers, the Marcus Garveys, who were like, let's get the fuck out of here. And you know what I mean? Everybody makes a fist, everybody makes a hand, and we punch together. But at the end of the day, the civil rights bill passed, and people were like, we smell a Kennedy cop-out, or we smell people that met us less than halfway, or we smell people that were using that to get reelected or to garner more campaign funds or to make their life more significant or better for them. But at the end of the day, we do have to count that as a W because we didn't have that before. We fought for that. We bled for that. So for me, from my perspective, the answer is yes.
Yeah, I mean, we'll take it at this point. And I mean, the game was a lot tougher beforehand. You know what I mean? I've always wanted the grounds to be even. That's what I was always looking for. And that didn't exist. And I think social media and, like you said, numbers, that's what I sort of wanted to segue to, is where now, especially because things are opening back up, a brand like BVFW, who only has 2,700 followers, can compete with a $1 million follower brand because, well, we are smart enough and we are aware enough to make sure we get our numbers. And that's sort of what I wanted to speak to. It's like we're sitting in here confident because we know we've generated income for a Fortune 500 company. You know what I mean? Multiple Fortune 500 companies at one time. And we knew that it would take us at least a year, but we needed to also keep those metrics. Those metrics are the truth. We can come here and smile at you, talk shit with you all day, Jake, but we got real metrics and it's real people that at this point want to see Angelo and Frank and Pretty Fly Society and Boutique Fashion Week win because it's at this point, you know what I mean? It's hot. We're hot. We're hot right now. And it's not because we're tooting our own horns. We're helping so many people that it has to work. If that makes, like, this is one of those, it's the beginning. It's like, I know sort of how Rolling Stone began, like Rolling Stone, the set of people they're working with, a personal photographer that they had for a long period of time. Like, it's the same crew, same thing here. Except we're building a little bit different because I'm like, if I could, not only Angelo and I build our business, but if we're giving the actual information to help others build theirs simultaneously, and then they're able to check boxes, they're not going to leave us. It's working. They're seeing it work. You're a fool if you were to leave us. But you see this stuff taking place, and we're not doing it in a manner where they feel like they have to depend on us. It's all choice, right? And because now social media, things like that have opened up, we can compete. And that's all we really wanted to do, was be able to compete. Of course, there's the assholes, there's the snobbies, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this is ours, but we don't care anymore. Like you said, we can tip you right over because give us maybe a full year, and we're going to come in here with enough metrics. I mean, case in point, 2 years ago, we went to an event on Melrose. I think the person's account had 1 million followers. I think we remember me, you. Yes, and we went into it. She had 1 million followers, maybe 45 people.
Like a single release party.
1 million followers, maybe 45 people. And that was the first time when I said, oh, this thing isn't real. It's what it is, and it's supposed to create this, this idea of how many people are following you. But what's real is what's on that black and white on them P&Ls. What's on that stuff, that's what starts to tell us what's going on and what you guys can really do. And to double back to your first question, why Vegas? It was because once we found out how much we helped these companies make in Houston, we know the value of a person has so much more in Las Vegas because you guys got 5-cent slots machines.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's something for everything in Las Vegas.
Bingo.
That's why I love it, and it's probably why I'll never leave. And speaking from the bias of a Vegas native,
Okay,
but I live most of my life in an open source technological world, which is blockchain. But I'm a even more firm believer in open sourcing ideas, which is basically what Frank was talking about, right? Previously to the rise of mobile technologies, if you were a founder of a business, you kind of hid behind your brand, right? No one knew who the owner or the CEO of Coca-Cola was, or this mom and pop shop down the street, or this brand, this franchise that's growing. But now you kind of have to be upfront and center for whatever business you're operating. The majority of those who buy Tesla isn't because of the technology, it's because they believe in Elon Musk. Bingo. And so it's the same kind of trickle down effect that's happening to even just small business owners like ourselves, and the podcast and social media and all these other outlets, with now even Clubhouse and Twitter Spaces. Those people who are consuming your brand, they get a direct relation to you. They're not in the room with us listening to this conversation, but they feel like they are. They sure do. And therefore, then if there's a question that is presented while listening to this, then they just DM you and you get to answer to it, as long as your DMs aren't just blown out of the water with thousands and thousands of them. Mm-hmm. But that's the cool thing that's happening, is it's all about like learning in public, building in public, being vulnerable in public, because what we've learned and kind of what these gated institutions hid from us from a while is that in order to build community, they need to feel attached to you somehow. And if you're not, as long as you're not nickel and diming them and you're being as authentic as possible and being like, hey, I'm not the best at a podcast. My first episode, I basically said, I have this grand vision of what I want to do, and I'm going to lay it out for you in this episode, but my charismatic skills are terrible. And as long as you get to build with me in public and support me, then you get to watch along this journey that happens. And that was definitely in a much more monotone manner on that first episode than we are here. But you get to look back and see like the growth that you've had. And then along this, I think you guys are episode like almost 175 or something like that in a year and a half.
Yeah.
And even every 10, 15 episodes, I get somebody who messages me in the community. It's like, it's crazy how much you've grown over the last year and a half. And to me, it's just like every day we're in the trenches every day battling. But then those who are watching, they get to see the business model grow. And then they feel like they're part of the community because they were your initial social investor.
We spoke yesterday. We was riding to Los Angeles, and I sort of spoke to Q about that. I was like, yeah, I'll smell the roses for a second. You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to smell them, because that in a year and a half, you've up to 170. So 2 years and 3 years. And then pretty soon think about it. I don't know if it was Gary Vee or somebody. We look over one. We're too busy looking past one. We want 1 million. There's one person that really likes you, bro. You know what I mean? That's a lot of people. And now you need to turn that relationship into something else where they go tell someone else. And if you can master just that one, you can master all of them. You know what I mean? And my first book, one of my first books that I read was called From Zero to One by Peter Thiel.
Oh, that's one of my favorite books. Yeah. I quote it all the time.
I got you. Yeah. That's my book, From Zero to One by Peter Thiel. I think he's not YouTube, PayPal. I think that's
he's one of the PayPal mafias. Yes. Now he has Peter Thiel Capital, and
Square.
He did the Peter Thiel Fellowship.
Shout out to Square. We rock with Square.
Yeah, me too.
Gotcha. So
Jack Dorsey's the man.
So Peter, that book, that little excerpt out of that book is sort of what sort of started all this. If you can move a company from 0 to 1, you can make $1 million, you can make $1 billion, because you can show them how to do something that they couldn't do. And sometimes it doesn't even have a name on it. Sometimes, you might try to get some cool terms. You might throw marketing out there, metrics, analytics, but sometimes you just know how to move a business. And when you have that happen, a lot of the times is, you think it's hoopla and whatnot, but it's paying attention to detail. It's the metrics. You know what I mean? It's sort of circle back to that. And he speaks on that in the book. If you know how to move this from here to here, just make sure that you track that. And then once you track it, go back and show them, because they can't argue that. This took place. We made you this type of dollars in comparison to your P&L last year. On this month, you didn't make this. There's value there. Now, the real question is, are you guys as a business going to step into it and let's move it forward? Or are you going to say we got lucky and wipe your hands with us? Well, luckily at this point, social media, our audience continuously growing, the business minds of everyone that we're meeting is sort of on that same level. We're going to stick around with you guys. You know what I mean? you met us. You know what I mean? It's not asshole-ish. You know what I mean? It's, hey, man, this is cool. We would like to actually build with you if you're down. But if not, we understand that as well. So
I'm glad you quoted that book.
Yeah,
0 to 1 also had a dramatic impact that I read. I actually read it like right when the pandemic happened or like right before. But yeah, the basic idea is like you're inventing something, you're introducing something new to society, whether it's an idea, a business model, a technology that never existed, and you're the pioneer. Some people like to say Facebook was like a 0 to 1 technology, but it wasn't. MySpace existed before that. Friendster existed before that. 0 to 1 technology is like the AC, right? The alternating current that was built by Thomas Edison, or the smartphone, or Bitcoin, or a new genre of music, right? Any type of new genre of music that pops up is a 0 to 1, and then it just forms a whole new industry around it. Yeah. But the person who is always the first to that genre is always seen as like that focal leader for a long time, unless they cancel themselves somehow or something like that. Yeah, but as long as they don't get in their own way. So Peter is known as one of the most talented investors of all time.
Really?
A huge part of getting like a company from 0 to 1 is the story. Like that's what they're buying these days. That's what we're buying. That's what we're consuming. Like, and even with you sharing about your podcast and saying at the very first episode, like, yo, this is who I am, this is who I ain't, this is what you can expect. I'm not this type of host. That story and opening up about that can be nerve-wracking as creatives, as personalities, as people, but we got to realize there's somebody for that everywhere.
Yep.
And even the same way we look at nobody's just buying things. When I say nobody, I generalize hardcore, but for the most part, we're not buying stuff just because, oh, that looks dope on a hanger. Like, we're buying it because there's a story there. We're buying those Nikes because those are joints that Jordan had on when he did the thing. Or we're buying, I'm buying these kind of pants because this is the pants my generation is wearing because we're revolting against the previous generation's pair of pants. Or there's a story there everywhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And even with companies we work with, like Gorin Brothers, they have a story. They're representing marginalized people, alienated people. They're representing the outliers, and they're making people feel like hats are for you. You know what I mean? They're converting people into hat people just by showing people we accept you for who you are. That's a story. You know what I mean? And as creators, we get hung up on it all the time in a place of, I think we look at what the previous generations had to look like and smell like and be like to make it or to achieve a certain status we're trying to achieve, and we think of ourselves as not being in that box. When in reality, you being this complex thing, this conundrum, this clash of different energies, there's somebody out there for that. Yep. You know what I mean? Like I have just through the hundreds of creatives we've met through the years doing what we do. I mean, you could meet somebody who doesn't believe that there's hundreds of people out there or thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people out there that consume what they got going on. But they would, and they would connect with it. Like you take somebody like a musician who gives you Ruby Rose in appearance, or who gives you that kind of vibe in appearance, but really they're grandma. They in the bed at 9 p.m. You know what I mean? They snuggle. Or you got somebody who gives you Idris Elba in appearance or energy or potential, but really they a whole ass geek and nerd out here. You know what I mean? Or they're an introvert, or they don't identify with what people project onto them. And I'm constantly like, put that out there. Let that ooze into every piece of content you put out there, everything you distribute, from captions to the pictures you take to everything. Show people you're this grandma, or show the people that you're this dweeb that you believe yourself to be, because there's people out there going to connect with it. I used to study, at one point in college, my major was economics, and I had a speaker come in. I don't want to misquote what he did and the things he achieved, but he was important enough for us to want to pay attention. And he had done a lot of business in Asia and retail businesses, and helped a lot of retail businesses expand in Asia. And he would say because of their population dynamics in China, they do a lot of population control. They're just booming with people. The way it affects everything all the way down, like they say, trickle down economics, but it affects everything in the sense of even a bakery. There's so many people that they don't need to sell 1 million units per day. It's just the way they approach everything is different. So you could walk into their version of a Publix and go through the bakery aisle, and you're going to be attacked with a lot more visual things, because all they need to do is get 50 people to stop and buy this thing for $1. So it's more so about making you stop what you're doing and connect. It's like you see a lot of things that get thrown at the wall from this speaker's perspective, and it made us look into it more as students and researchers ourselves. But the way they brand and market things is because they're throwing things at a wall because they know somebody will identify with it. And when you have, when you're a company and you're an entity that has a capital that can afford to do that, that makes sense for you. But as a creative, it's not about throwing a lot of things at the wall. It's throwing who you are out there. And the passerbys, if it's bright enough and beautiful enough for them, for their particular eye, they're going to stop. They're going to click on it. They're going to stream it. They're going to consume it. They're going to see how they can support you because they identify with you. And they don't feel seen or heard or understood out here either in the celebrities that they see on TV every day or in magazines every day or the creatives that they, aspire to emulate or bypass. They don't feel seen or heard in the content they're consuming. So if you offer them something that they do feel seen and heard, while you're thinking like, nobody rocks with this. What? You know what I mean? I'm giving Madonna, but I'm really, a geek or a dweeb or I'm a hardcore athlete. You know what I mean? I have all these things that are just juxtaposition, this conundrum of different factors. Put that out there. I guarantee you somebody's rocking with it.
That's and you know who's captured the individuality and the specificity of sub niches is the internet. Right? On YouTube, there's so many channels that have tens of thousands of followers, and you're like, who would watch this?
Stuff, yeah.
My kids watch it. My daughter watches other kids opening gifts. Just opening
playing games,
surprise eggs.
YouTube,
I'm like, you had that game. Like, yeah, but I like listening. I like zoning out to them talking ish on the game. I'm like, that's insane.
That's like the kids' Real Housewives. Like that. Shut up, Dad. And they're like, Jacob's opening PlayStation 5 today.
And they're like talking back to it. They're like, oh, Jacob, why'd you get that game? That's stupid. It's like, what?
It's because out in the world, the world's becoming hyper specialized with everything. All the land that's existed on the planet's been discovered. All of the basic tools have been created. Now it's like you have to find something and dive in deeper, whether it's technology or music or culture or whatever, and really dive in and use all of your experiences in life, combine them, and then form something that's specific to you, but resonates with everybody else.
We got so many options because of the technology. Like even if you look at like kids coming into puberty and finding out who they are, and when you break that down to some of the most base things of like self-expression, the clothes you want to wear. Like the kids these days can pull things. I remember even our generation growing up is regional. It's what's around you that's going to affect you. And then it expanded as, the hip hop scene exploded and became more international. We're able to pull from different regions. But even our parents and our grandparents, previous generations, they were confined to their area, to their town, to their limitations of technology or transportation. Now a kid can go and see how cats in DC, they can get on Tumblr, they can get on Instagram, they get on Twitter and see in DC they wear the foam posits, or in New York they wear the Timbs. In Miami they wear the hair like this and they chest out. In Cali them boys do the chucks with the camo, or in Texas they do the this with the hats, and they could put all that together and create their own look, their own vibe. And everybody's just walking around so singular and so different and such a mishmash of the things that they're into. You know what I mean?
And they find they find the person that they identify with that may not be in the area, that's that mental health plus. You know what I mean? Social media serves as a mental health plus and minus sometimes, but the major plus of it for those that got that type of mental control is now I don't feel alone. You know what I mean? Social media does that. It's crazy. It's like the gift and the curse, because you that alienation that once existed is no longer there because, oh, well, I wear my pants like this. And like you just said, I met somebody in Jackson. I live in Las Vegas, but I follow this guy in Jacksonville. He dressed just like me. You know what I mean? It's perfect. And he makes me feel that much better about going to high school. Like we got daughters, right? I got 15-year-old daughters. They're in high school right now. And it's interesting seeing them go through that. Like interesting seeing them try to figure out what to wear, or you can see them attempt to be cool or trying to. And I'm like, what's crazy is this whole creative circle is going to walk you right back to yourself. Like out of everything that you just said, like even with us searching and looking for other people, or you may not find yourself and it gets sad. You know what I mean? But I don't want to go there. It gets dark over there. But if you happen to complete that creative journey, you just wind up finding it's okay being me. Like that's the plus out of all of it. It's 100% okay being me, whether that includes some ignorance and there's some things I need to learn. That's okay. But the problem is a lot of us won't say that part. Like I need to accept that I don't know. I need to accept what I do know. And then that creates areas of opportunity for progression. again, that word progression is always what we should be working towards. You know what I mean?
Something that I'm a big believer in, right? If you're not, what is it? If you're not growing, then you're dying,
Gotcha.
In a sense. And so it's the best way to capture it. There's so many sub niches and different things that we could get involved with. And even let's say there's something that exists in the world that only 10 people like, you can be that leader of those 10 people through the internet. And then other people who are friends or around the extracurricular communities, they're like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then the community grows from there, which therefore the opportunity never existed.
Boutique Fashion Week.
Because odds are a few out of those 10 people are going to be real authentic souls that don't have a problem giving you some kind of credit for inspiring them. So that family tree will continue to grow, inspire many, many more people, like Tupac used to say. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I can't change the world, but I can spark the mind that will. And that's that story arc. Like even with you saying your daughter, you telling her like, oh, don't worry, you're trying to be cool now, and you find out that you was always cool, and then you go full circle and you go back to like being you. Hopefully that smacks in your like late 20s, early 20s.
And that's usually what happens. Yeah.
Exactly. And we see that even with creatives of different ventures, bro. Like how played out is a storyline of an artist that gets caught young, like say a musical artist that gets caught young, gets into the mainstream, gets a contract.
Yeah. I already know what storyline's going.
That first music video is boo-boo. Like they got some people telling you what to do that don't know where you came from, what inspires you, or they don't resonate with what's going on, and they're messing with the recipe that made you successful. Now they got you doing this high production music video budget situation that ain't you. You going through it because they keep convincing you that it is. This is it. It's what you need to do. It flops because it ain't you. And then
you're out of a deal.
And then you're re-ing up and they're like, oh, your first record didn't do so hot. And you're like, because I told you that shit was whack. I'm like, gee. And they're like, yeah, probably should listen to you. Well, we're on to this other thing. It's a new fiscal year. And then they do the same thing to the next artist. And then you become, say, independent, or you hang on through the storm, you get some of your royalties, your residuals, you flip something, or we see the narrative that somebody like a more established artist saw what you just went through and they're like, come to death row, we got your back, we believed in who you were the first time. I don't know why you let them hold you in that way, but come here, we're not gonna try to hold you. Or however that narrative bounces back. There's always a major comeback after a setback. So after that storm passes, if they're able to go through that storm, they go back to who they originally were, double down on it with some growth after because you've learned a lot, and that shit goes through the roof. Or it sells at enough pace for them to live the way they want to live or be who they want to be, and they find themselves free from this system of like, I used to buy these cars and this jewelry and these houses to try to keep up, and I went broke doing that, and now
that's the key.
I go outside when I want.
That's the key.
I fart when I want. I perform when I want. All my people around me getting paid because we do what we want. You know what I mean? Yep. And that's a story arc we hit as human beings. Like in middle school, high school, most of us call yourself trying to be this thing, or you're playing out this conflict of nature versus nurture. Who am I? But who is my environment, and how is that affecting me? And then you come full circle and realize like, oh no, it was always this. Like this was always the bee's knees. I'm gonna just double down on this.
And I bet anytime you look in that they didn't find that result, I'm pretty sure there's a negative outcome. Like life is life. That's the best way for me to put it. You can look across the spectrum and sort of tell like there's the bare necessities that you have to put in for your success, right? You worked, right? So you worked. I actually worked in hospitality as well. I bartended for quite some time. So I understand the grind that is, right? But that's also a choice, right? You stopped making that choice, but you also understood that you wanted to work more, right? Because by stopping that, you mean you want to work more because but at least I like what I'm doing now. I would like to have an attempt to control what I'm doing now. But just let that think on how that impacts your mental health. You see what I'm saying? Like just that element of something that simple. But I want to piggyback on what you were speaking on. It helps you determine what people are in it for. Are you in it to be seen? Because if you're in it to be seen, that's a race that could run forever, which could potentially run you into drugs and run you into all types of shit, right?
There's a lot of things you can do to be seen.
But then you got the people who, we just want to do it to make a living. And then those are the people that wind up getting catapulted, a la Boutique Fashion Week, the shameless plug. But my point of saying that is that's why we got into it. I'm like, listen, that 0 to 1 means a lot to me. And it's dope that you rock with it because I say to Angelo, he'll quote it, 1 + 1 will forever be 2, brother. That's a fact. 1 + 1, that simple math problem is just like life. I get one designer, I get another designer. I get more designers. I get more shooters. Pretty soon we got hundreds of them. Pretty soon we got what we want. And we control the pace. So however slow we would like to go, if I'm working at another job who's taking 40, 50 of my hours, I can't get out there that much. But if I get rid of them, I could probably impact this many more people. Did I save up while I was working? I got about 3 months of this. You know what I mean? And this is just the real time process. This is what I went through, what Angelo went through. And then you also got to take in consideration those who love you, right? There's maybe some other people. Like we got families. So if we do want to chase this, are y'all ready to deal with this as well? But you find out about them, right? You find out if they're really there for you because now you're really doing what you want to do. So because of that, it shows, was this support real or was you support me because I was doing what you wanted me to do? So all of that impacts like your mental health, the job selection, the circle of life, all this thing is always going to be the same. It's just, are you going to meet somebody that can impact it? You know what I mean? Are you going to adjust or are you going to stay on the same path that you're on? You know what I mean? I pray for clarity and things like that for all people, seriously. Because at this point in my life, I can almost tell instantly. Like where we're going to go here. You can even tell if you're open to finding out just in your conversation, if you want to be exposed to something else. You know what I mean?
If you're ready.
If you're ready for that. Everybody want to go. Everybody can't come though.
And you have to be relentless and never quit quit
ever.
And not take it personal because what you got going on ain't for everybody.
Yep.
And
I had to learn that.
And whatever you're doing will click with somebody at some point in time. Amen. You just got to know that if the opportunity presents itself, always double down on you. Exactly.
2 times.
I have one final question for both of you. Same question I asked everybody on the way out.
Gotcha.
Start with Angelo first.
It wasn't me. There's somebody that looks like me.
What does Las Vegas mean to you?
Oh man. We were just talking about this in the whip the other day in the sense of I'm big on energy and vibrations, and I try to pay attention to how areas were like formed or created. You know what I mean? You look at a place that's special like Florida and why it's so special and traumatic and the things that have happened there that make the energy traumatic and how that transcends and continues to like affect all of us. But the story of Bugsy Siegel, and not that Vegas wasn't a place or a town, but him having a dollar and a dream and putting in mad work for his colleagues and having a retirement option and saying, this is my retirement option. His colleagues saying, you need to stop smoking crack. This is terrible. and then unfortunately, Bugsy had to get out of the way or what was going on affected him in a fatal way. But then to turn out that he was right. You know what I mean? So we just trying to be right while we're here. And we see Vegas a place of dreamers. We see architecturally, I'm a big architect geek and like urban planning geek. This is in my nature. So I'm always paid attention to like what people are able to get off in a market like Vegas versus other markets. Beautiful architecture, but daring and bold and commercial and trying to raise a lot of money with the LEDs and raising commerce that would not get off in certain cities and certain areas. And just the things the concepts that are created. We were in the whip the other day, we're talking about, which I want to look into before I quote it, but a hotel looking to import water and sand from the beach. That's costly. That's like, there's plenty of reasons to shoot that dream as soon as you hear it. In a place like Vegas, the reaction is, yeah. Nobody's asking like, where are you going to get the sand and the water? How can you do it?
People make it happen.
Like, yes. Yeah. Would they have brunch and hookah? Yeah. Yes, I think that's a great idea. Yeah. That's what Vegas represents to us, man. A land of opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. How about you, Frank?
I mean, the last word he said, opportunity. Also, I think Vegas will get us. Like I am one who
understood here.
Yeah, I am one who I don't really feel like a lot of people get me. You know what I mean? Very, very misunderstood. And I think a lot of that's demeanor, right? But when you know you got it, you know what I mean? At some point, I can't dumb it down when I know, and I believe it in my spirit. And Angelo and I, we felt like Vegas was a place that would champion our efforts. You know what I mean? Once we felt like if we got our act together and came here with the things that we needed to show, and I'm talking about real business stuff, that, oh, okay, guys, you guys have something here. And the business mind of these guys could actually add value to Angelo and I. You know what I mean? We know a lot to be cats from the South and the Southeast, you know what I mean? So you guys are pretty talented, but now you're over here in the West Coast where this is what we do. So we felt like they would take our idea and not take negatively, but enhance it. But we're championing it. You see what I'm saying? We want them to. We're 100. We understand that the house wins in Vegas. We want that. We want the house to win in Vegas because our house is Atlanta, Georgia. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So when you're really a business mind like that, you know, it's again, why not Las Vegas? You know what I mean? I'm a VHS kid. I grew up on VHS. I've always envisioned of coming over here and doing something. And you know, with a lot of the stuff that I've been through personally as it pertains to putting events together, the naysayers and the believers is extremely dope because about 3 or 4 years ago, I understood that they didn't matter. And pandemic hit, and then I found out who mattered. You know what I mean? And then they continue to prove themselves, and now I have all the confidence I need to do what it is that I need to do for us because that's my contribution to the team. So long story short, man, Las Vegas represents opportunity. I feel like there's a level of understanding here.
There is opportunity by far the number one answer. By far from everybody. By far. So for those who are listening or watching on YouTube, where do they send them to follow both of you along your personal journeys and then get involved with fashion or Boutique Fashion Week? Mm-hmm. High Society, all that stuff. Pretty Fly Society.
What you're going to want to do is check out onlyfans.com. Hell no.
Nah, we
put
big,
that on me,
big
Ricky
chiller.
Bobby.
Don't you do that. Don't you do that.
Nah, Boutique Fashion Week. We spell the U's with V's. Yep. Don't let it throw you off. It's pronounced Boutique Fashion Week. Yep. You'll understand why when the magazine comes out. The branding will come full circle. BOVTIQVE. Fashion Week, and that's on Instagram, that's on social media, that's on website.
Google.
Check it out. We're coming to a city near you. So we activate twice a year, every late February, late September, in a different major American city.
Where are we going this year, Angelo?
We got Vegas and Atlanta coming up. We just did Houston this past September. It went beautifully. Shout out to Houston. Shout out to
Texas.
All of our partners and media entities. And shout out
to
the Guild, Houston, Texas. Aloft.
I got you, bro. Just keep
Houston,
going. I got you.
Shout out to Sonia. Houston. Shout out to Sonia at Aloft Hotels. It was much love, and we're very excited about Vegas and Atlanta, and we're all about disruption, inclusion, diversity, clearly. So if what you hear today, if what you smelled today on this podcast sounds good to you, give us a follow and hit us up. Yeah. Somebody on the team will be hitting you back shortly.
Please do. Please hit us.
I'm Angelo Diaz. You can find me on kind of just things like stuff. Just AngeloDiaz.com, IMDb, the Instagrams. I had to start another one. I got hacked.
Hackers are out there, man.
Cuba the God. They working. They working hard. I refuse to be outworked though, so I'm gonna keep it going. You know what I mean?
How about you, Frank?
Franck Mille, FRANCK_MILLE at Pretty Fly Society. All those words are spelled correctly. PRETTYFLYSOCIETY. Boutique Fashion Week, as Angelo just mentioned, replace the U's with V's, and then if you add a .com, it'll take you to a website.
Shout out to both of you guys for hitting me up and for coming on this conversation.
I appreciate that.
Beautiful. Both of you are very constructive in your creativity, and you can see that you are channeling it in the perfect direction 10 years later even. So I've been on the same road. And thank all of you for listening and watching. We'll catch you next time.
Peace.